It's been very interesting to watch this generative AI phenomena unfold before us. I find that there are three phases of awareness around generative AI. The first phase, typically when someone's working with ChatGPT, is, oh my God, this is incredible. And there's a combination of excitement and fear. Excitement because this thing does everything. It's like a human. Fear because, oh, wait a minute, what am I going to do? All humans are out of a job. So people don't know whether they should be excited or scared. And they're trying to sort that out. And as you use ChatGPT or Gemini or their cousins further, you start to realize, actually, this thing is wrong a lot. And it's wrong with arrogance. It's not, typically in data science, we make a prediction. We say, well, with 80% confidence, then we think this is going to happen and so on. No, generative AI this is the answer, very authoritative. It's like a very arrogant consultant. They always have an answer, whether they know or not, they have an answer and they'll give it to you. But you have to be very careful with those answers because they're not always correct. This is sometimes referred to as hallucination. Paralegals are very scared of generative AI because the people in law firms that do all the work, they're not the lawyers, they're the paralegals who do all the research and figure out what the case and present these summaries to the lawyers that then argue the case. Generative AI is very good at doing those summarizations. People, oh my God, I'm out of a job. But then when you start reading some of these case studies, wait a minute. That summary they did, that's completely wrong. In fact, they're quoting case law that doesn't exist. They've even got footnotes, and it doesn't exist. These hallucinations are very scary. You still need an expert to understand what's real or not real. I'm giving the case law example, but same thing happens. Give me a Python program to predict such and such. You'll immediately get the Python code. And then you look through and say, wait a minute, I don't know this library. That's because that library doesn't exist and never existed. Hallucinations. What generative AI does is create knowledge, but you still have to be able to analyze the knowledge to understand, is this accurate or not? Is this useful or not? So the skill sets required are going to be less about creation going forward and more about analyzing and being able to constructively critique and understand how to tweak. It's a very different job set skill. I've heard generative AI referred to as a skill set multiplier. But if your skill set is 0, the answer is still 0. In universities, when they first started dealing with generative AI, the students figured out the capabilities long before the professors. And they started, turning in these amazing essays and so on. The professor, wait, Johnny never wrote an essay that good before. How did this happen? And eventually they figure out, they're using ChatGPT. And the initial reaction of the universities, this is cheating, and anybody who uses generative AI, you're cheating, and we're going to flunk you, we're going to expel you, you're out. This, in my opinion, is the wrong attitude. It's a tool. I'm going to show my age here. I'm going to give you an example. When I was taking physics, the calculator came. And my father, who also took physics, that's cheating. I did this with a slide rule. No, a calculator is a tool. Who would not do physics with a calculator if you had one? You can do more physics, better physics, more accurate physics, faster physics. Use the calculator. Generative AI is a tool. Use it as a tool, a skill set multiplier, but you have to add value. Eventually, they figured out, well, okay, if you're not adding any value, then you flunk. But it's actually perfectly reasonable to use generative AI to create an outline, but you fill in the details And by the way, when you fill in the details, we'll use generative AI to correct all the grammar and the vocabulary because that'll be much better than my grammar. It's a tool. Use the tool. Just like a calculator, it's a tool. But if you don't understand the principle of physics, your answers are still going to be wrong. If you use the tool and you don't understand the output and you can't analyze what really should be included, it's still going to be a problem. But it's a tool and it should be used. There are huge productivity gains. So in programming, using copilots and the like, argument's sake, 40 to 50% productivity gains by using generative AI. Because I'm not starting from scratch. And what's interesting is there was a study done, and they showed that through surveying, anonymous surveys, that among software engineers, more than 80% of software engineers were using generative AI. 65% were not telling their boss they were doing it. That's an interesting statistic. Why? Because they're afraid, well, wait a minute, if my boss knows that generative AI is doing all the work, what am I going to do? Are they going to give me more work? Are they going to lower my salary, my bonus? So there's some interesting dynamics going on right now. But we need to use these tools. We need to have policies for how the tools are going to be used. In phase 3, we start to realize it's not magic. In fact, generative AI is not actually intelligent. It doesn't really understand the content that it's creating. It's a statistical model. It's a transformer neural network using sophisticated statistics and mathematics in order to create the output. And we've all used Gmail, and we type a sentence, it'll give you the next word. Well, generative AI is better than that. It'll give you the next word, it'll give you the next word, and the next word, and the next word. And pretty soon you have a paragraph, and pretty soon you have multiple paragraphs, and pretty soon you have a whole paper. Generative AI is just sexy sentence completion. And it can be English language, or Spanish language, or French language, or it can be a programming language. Python and SQL are much more robust and specific syntax than spoken languages, so of course it works for programming languages as well. And then we can go even further and say, well, actually I have business language. The steps necessary to manufacture a part, or the customer journey through my website or in my store. If we think creatively, we can start to map vocabularies into these training models and do lots of interesting things with sequence optimization. In the end, generative AI is really about sequence optimization. And sequence of words to create an output, or sequence of syntax for programming languages, or a business language. There is huge opportunity out there using generative AI. Now, I do not believe generative AI is going to replace humans in most jobs, but humans who use generative AI will replace humans that don't, because they will be more productive.